Hi everyone and welcome in this new video in which I'll talk about a game that I played in a simultaneous exhibition in Santa Camerina, Ragusa province in Sicily. The event was organized by the Accademia Scacchistica Ragusana and that I thanks for the invite and in this I played around 20 games and one of them was against this guy Flavio Leggio that sent me the game and now we will comment the game together to see what happened in this game, what was my strategy. As you know, in every simultaneous exhibition, the master will play with white, so I played this game with white, and I played d4. He played d5, bishop f4, so I played the London system, and after knight c6 I played e3, bishop f5. Usually, when my opponent played bishop f5, my main idea is to attack on the queen side. When you play chess, it's very important to try to imagine what's the side in which you want to attack. And in this case, my idea was to attack on the queen side. Why? Because the b7 pawn is not defended, the enemy bishop is out, so I can try to make problems there. And to do that, I played first knight f3. After knight f6, I played c4. And after c4, he played e6, and then knight c3. It's very important to consider this pawn on c4 is important because when you attack, you need space, and this pawn is taking space on the queen side, and potentially can be pushed if you need. You can take opening the c file, or you control in general some important squares on the queen side. My opponent played bishop b4, pinning my knight, and I played queen b3 because, as I said, the queen on b3 is good to attack b7, and I can make a nice pressure there. He played castle, and I played bishop e2, queen d7, h3. The point of h3 is that I want to keep my bishop in the game. So against knight h5, now I can simply play bishop h2, and my bishop is really, really good and can always make pressure on the queen side, because if I'm attacking on the queen side, this dark bishop can be very useful to do that. So that's the reason to play h3 in this case. And he played now rook b8, rook d8. I played castle, and then bishop c3 and queen c3. I can also take with the pawn if I want, but I took with the queen because my idea was that after I take with the queen, I can then attack with the pawns on the queen side. Because, as you know, to attack in this space, and my idea is to have an expansion with my pawns on the queen side pushing, especially the b pawn, taking space and removing the enemy knight from c6. He played knight e4, I removed the queen on c1, and now he played the rook e8. a3, with the idea to support b4, because I want to have this expansion on the queen side, and now I play knight e7, b4, a6, knight e5, attacking the queen has to go away, and now c5. I don't take on d5, because if I take on d5, I give him a very good square for the knight. The knight here is very powerful, then I have to remove the bishop, so I don't think this is very good for me. For this reason, I played c5. I take space on the queen side again, and my break push in the next future would be b5. That's the logic about it. So black played b5, but that is a mistake. In general, remember, when you are defending in the side which you're the defender, don't push your pawns if it's not necessary. And this is the problem, because playing b5, black is weakening a6 and c6, because the pawn on b7 is not defending a6, c6 anymore. And after b5, I can take en passant on b6. After I take on b6, then he has to take back with the pawn, and I can have the possibility to trade queens, because the queen is the only defender of the pawn. The queen is the only defender of the pawn. So I remove the queen, and now finally I took the pawn. Now I'm better because I'm up a pawn, so it's clear that white is going to reach a very good endgame. So let's go back to understand the logic of the queenside attack, because I think for beginners it's very common. They want to attack always the king, and sometimes correct, but very often is not correct, because maybe we can have more opportunities on the queen side. So this game show you what could be a strategy. Bring the pieces on the one side, like the queen side, push the pawns, take space, and make weaknesses. Once your opponent has a lot of weaknesses in this area, it's easier for you to win material, for example, a pawn or other things, and then with this material advantage, you can try to win the game at the end. That's the logic of this game. So what I did, I developed my pieces, trying to make pressure on the queen side, then I took space on the queen side, and he weakened first playing e6 a little bit, and a lot with b5. Once he played b5, he lost the pawn. And now knight e6. I played rook c1 because in the endgame it's very important to play well with the rooks, and take the open file is very important here. So that's why I played rook c1, black played b5, and here I played f3, forcing this knight to go away. I have to pay attention because now the enemy threat can be maybe rook a8. So that's why I played f3, knight e2, g4, and now the bishop is under attack, so I played bishop g6, rook c3 to stop the fork, and now rook a8. I took the bishop, it took here, and now I took the knight on d6. It took here, and I went back on e5. Alright, what's the result about that? The knight on e5 is important because I'm defending the pawn, and I'm still up a pawn. f6, now if I remove the knight, I lose the pawn, so it's bad for me. For this reason, I didn't move the knight, but I played rook d1, so I'm playing this very important intermediate move. The enemy knight has only one square value, that is c4, but if it's c4, probably I can also trade the knights, keeping my material advantage. He played this, I took the knight, he took here, and in this case, only trade, again, have 6 pawns against 5. I'm still up a pawn, and have good chances to win the game, because yes, I'm still up a pawn, the rook is active, the pawn is weak, the pawn e6 is weak. There is a famous book called the manual, the Endgame Manual, written by Dvorsky, the great author Mark Dvorsky. And in this book, he said when you're up 2 points in the rook endgame, you can win. When he's saying 2 points, it doesn't mean pawns. It means also pawns. So a pawn can be a point, for example, but it means also the rook activity and the king activity. So in this case, considering that I'm up a pawn, have a good activity with rooks, and he has some weaknesses on b5 and e6, for sure I should have more than 2 points more. So it means that I can win this endgame. g5, rook c5, attacking the weakness on b5. He didn't defend, he played rook a6. Makes sense because very often in the rook endgame you have to play active, so it's correct. Don't defend and attack my pawn on a3. That is here under attack. So I defended my pawn. I defended my pawn because I can take both rooks there, and then slowly improve my king. I improve my king, and then he played d5. Pawn e5, king e5, now rook c5 is very strong because yes, he could still take the pawn, but this time I take here with check, and I will win d5, b5, and probably also g5. That's why rook c5 is so strong here, so he has to play passive defending d8, defending d5, but now I take b5. So clearly, with 2 pawns more, 2 connected path pawns, the game is over. h6, rook c5, rook d6, I push the pawns. Now my simple strategy is push the pawns and win the game. He played king e6, a5, d4, b5, check, a4. Yeah, I lose b5, but I take the d pawn, and then I have time to support the a pawn. Here, after rook a8, I mean after a7, he resigned. This was the end of the game. He resigned after that, and it's correct because there is no way for him to defend this position. The only move is rook 8, but after that I can play f4, gf4, king f4. My king is unstoppable and will take easily this pawn. Once I take this pawn, I can push the g and the h pawn, winning the game easily. So okay, there is no way for him to stop this plan, and that's why I resigned correctly here. So this game, in my opinion, is very important to understand the queenside attack and how to convert an advantage as a pawn, for example, in a win. Clearly, it requires technique and a bit of understanding of some positions, but I hope that this game can help you. And if you have questions, feel free to comment below. I will be happy to answer you. Have a good day. See you for the next video. Bye.